Hello and welcome to Paul.Bike. This is one of my bikes. It is a Devinci Troy Carbon from 2014. I love this bike. This is one of my first real mountain bikes since I got back into mountain biking. And I love it and I don't want to replace it just yet. So I'm going to upgrade it. Here I have a brand new set of carbon wheels to be able to upgrade it to this drawer full of new components. And here you can see the components that I'm going to be looking at. So we got a Shimano XT rear cassette, Shimano XT rear derailleur. This is a Black Spire 32 tooth narrow wide chainring, Shimano XT rear shifter, 2 center lock rotors. I'm moving to center lock for all my mountain bikes because 6 bolt is just a pain in the ass. Race face next R crankset, Shimano chain, and the cinch bottom bracket that goes with the crankset. So before we get started, we have to take off the old components. Considering this is almost a complete drivetrain upgrade, there's going to be a lot to remove. I'm going to start with, of course, the wheels. Make sure the clutch is off. Set those aside. Next, we got to pop out these bottom brackets. Let's try this one first. I know this one's going to come out nice and easy. There we go. There we go. And here we go. 1 10-speed derailleur, and as you can see, these teeth are pretty worn down. Still spins pretty good, but yeah, this has served me well. 8 years. So next, I'm gonna take my gloves off for this. We gotta take the shifters off. Now these brakes have a little release pin, and you press that in and they come off. Voila. Okay, same thing, you need to cut off the end of the cable. Now, you just pull that right out. Yeah. And similarly, you can pull this right out. This now gets pulled out because we are not going to have a use for this cable. This comes right out. This, by the way, I'm going to show you. I'm going to push this right back. Look at that. Just came right out. And the reason is, this is the generation of carbon frames that had sleeving inside. Modern ones, you need a tool. You need a tool like this, which is the Park Tool IR, and this internal cable routing tool. You don't need that with this bike. It just works. So I'm going to have these holes here. Unfortunate, but the way it is. I'm also going to have to find a seen them, a cap. And you put a little cap where the 1X mount goes right here, to sort of cover that up. Front derailleur, something a lot of people don't use anymore, and something I won't be using anymore, at least on my mountain bike. My gravel bike is still a 2x, and I'm quite happy with that. All right, I think I have all the old components off the bike. Now that this is off, I'm gonna take this opportunity to clean this bike. Now that everything's off of here, I'm gonna be able to get to places I haven't been able to get to in ages. That, and I probably didn't do such a good job cleaning this the last time I went riding. You know what? I think I'm going to replace this cable. This cable is pretty wrecked. The rear shifter cable. See, it's pretty frayed right there. It's generally a good idea to replace your shifter cables every so once in a while anyways. The cable sort of loses its, not strength, but its ability to stay rigid, which affects your shifting performance. Now, when putting on new stuff, make sure to grease it up. New derailleur is in place. Probably do the bottom bracket. Let's get some grease. Oops, I'm just gonna use my hands. So these are my new bearings. I'm gonna stick in one here. That in there. Wheels manufacturing. I'm a home mechanic, so I don't have the nice quick release. Let's see, what do we got? 30 and 30. All right. All right. Now, if you don't have one of these, you just go to your local hardware store, get some threaded pipes, some big washers, and some nuts. But having the actual press ends is very nice. I don't really recommend doing it without it. Next, we have the cranks. Need to take off the cinch ring and put on our new chain ring. There we go. Now, cinch uses a standard cassette lock ring tool. Clamp it in your vise, if you have a vise. Yeah, there's plenty of grease on here already. This came greased from the manufacturer. Let's do this by hand first. You clamp it in like that. And then you really give it a good turn. So we got to get the threaded nut out of there. We're going to use this and an 8mm. There we go. Loosen that up. Now the actual retaining nut, which is just in there loosely. All right. The retaining nut back in there. Now you got to make sure that you have this little plastic washer that the cinch cranks come with. That's used for extraction later. All right, there is the crank. Now this is going to move a little bit. We need to move the actual cinch bolt in. 2mm hex for this. There we go. It's snug. Tighten that back up. This does not have to be tight. You do not want to, it's just a plastic collar. You don't want to break it. All right. We're doing the shifter. So take the cap off of one end. There we go. Put the end cap back on. Have to get this off. These are my favorite grips. They're from Raceface. Nice and thick, nice and sticky. Though, oh, and they're ODI compatible, which is a big deal, in my opinion. I love ODI grips. I hate pressure grips. This won't be at their final position, but I'm just getting them in there so it's easier to work on. Let's undo the cable. Now, are we going to need to cut this? I think so. Even at full extension, that is a lot of cable. That's looking good right there. They're on the work table. Now, when you use cable cutters to cut the cable, the little plastic silicone bit inside sometimes gets squashed, so you need to take a pick like this and just open it up, otherwise you're going to have a hard time. And I recommend getting this in first for the same reason. That way you can glide that in there, then you put this on. You start running it through, and because this is end-to-end hose, this will come right out where we need it. There we go, we pull that in. All right, quick test. All right, our new rear wheel. This is Light Bicycle carbon rim with White Industries hub. Go. There we go. So I found out later that I screwed up here. I didn't realize that I had dropped a spacer ring while assembling the cassette onto the freehub body, and so you'll see later I was having a bit of a problem getting the shifting working. After some searching, I finally found the ring on the floor where I had dropped it. So yeah, pay attention. The 12-speed Shimano cassette has several spacing rings, and you need to use them all for proper shifting. We got our disc rotor. There we go. Wheel lined up. I actually had a lot of problems getting this wheel on. I'm not quite sure why, but managed to get it on in the end. Final bit of assembly here. We have to get the chain on. Brand new sealed Shimano chain. Now, there's a little helpful notice right on the packaging here. It's at the bottom. I know you can't see it here, but it's pretty much saying, hey, these Shimano chains are direction specific, meaning you do not want the writing, the stamped Hyperglide logo that's on the chains, to be on the inside. You want them to be on the outside. Let's get the narrow wide part done. Oops. That wasn't very good. Threading the chain. Make sure to get it on the right side of the jockey wheels and the guide there. There we go. The narrow wide is good. Now we cut to size, because this is obviously too long. So I got a bit of a surprise. My normal chain breaker doesn't support Shimano 12-speed chains. I have this nice portable one, really nice design. I'll talk about it later. Let's get this done. So we want a little bit of tension, probably right there. All right, there's the Shimano Quick Link. 1, 2, get our chain pliers. There we go. Yeah, you can stomp on it, but pedal washers. Those on there. Now normally you would grease the thread on your pedals. These are already greased from the previous install. I don't feel like there's a shortage of grease on these pedals, so I'm not going to add any more. I only have one battery for the main camera I was using. So just switching to the GoPro. I want to get our cable cutter and a matching anodized red cable end. Yeah. go. On a 5mm. So you're holding the brake down while you adjust that. Little bit of rub. Not particularly concerned about it. I'm going to do the same thing in the front. And then we're going to call it done. And then we're going to take it out for a test drive. See you soon.